Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I actually will have to. As promised by the guy that I was talking to the other day, I guess I better go ahead and talk about this because this is something that has to do with some issues that I had with the audio logs talking with the commentator of name Raven. Nice guy. He's from Libya. And we had an interesting conversation when he talked to me about the whole issue. I actually really, it was eye opening, to be honest with you guys. He really did a good job explaining to his issues and his problems. It turns out we both, and I'll admit, I miscommunicated this. So I'm gonna go ahead and address an issue. So I accidentally muted the mic by accident. I was recording that whole conversation, and there were some bits of it that I will admit that were really good. And I'm gonna have to play that audio thing because it actually was an eye-opening conversation. I'm gonna try to keep it trimmed down a little bit. Hopefully, I could skip a couple of things here. I don't know if I can get the audio to play very well because there were certain things that I'm gonna have to recall because of the fact that there were certain things. Here we go.
Was from Turning Red, which is a Disney video, and
Yeah. I when I first started with him, you can see right here, I was like playing. Let me go ahead and show you guys because I muted some of the. I was muted in the mic by accident, and I had to apologize to him because I recorded that whole thing, and the audio of it was pretty interesting because listening to him, he actually put out some good points, and he is a artist himself, and I actually had to play the video, and it was actually pretty good. Sadly, my voice was basically muted in that whole conversation, and I just fucked up badly, and I feel bad for him. And the fact that we had a really good conversation, it was like eye-opening conversation about this. Even though I sacrificed my sleep on this one, it was actually worth talking to the guy about the whole issue. And the fact that he confronted me on on a video, I think this guy does have some potential to be a content creator, and I do. After listening to his story, it's interesting enough that the guy talked about this stuff. So let's go ahead and listen in on this.
I don't need to. That's a Western production. I don't see a correlation between Japanese animation and pedophilia. Like, what? How do you do that mental gymnastics to get there?
Yeah, well, he kind of accused me of this, and I basically told him that I was very upset about this, and I admit to him that I was really stupid and I wasn't wise on this whole issue. And the fact that I told him that I was upset with Gavin McGinnis over this whole
It
issue,
is.
and he understood very well with compassion. So I am recording this, so
Ah,
keep in mind it's muted
mm.
because some of the stuff was muted in that whole situation.
Wait. You mean you changed your mind on the idea after? Because what happened is that I saw your 5 minute video on YouTube. Would you reacting to it?
Yeah, I told him about the Disney thing, which was kind of true. Because yes, there was a situation with Disney. Apparently, a bunch of pedophiles were caught in a sting operation, and they all worked for the Disney resorts. And yeah, I was like making a joke about it, and it was kind of a thing that happened. And the fact that he kind
Oops.
of didn't
I did
understand it
not.
about
I
it,
did
but
not
he
know
heard
of
about it.
that. By the way, that's news to me. I'm not a huge Disney fan since I'm like I was a teenager maybe or something. I'm 34 years old now, just for context. So
Yeah, he was really nice about it, though. He understood.
it's nothing to apologize for. I mean, arguments happen, and I completely understand. And I'm glad that you were open minded to change your mind on things. and just to add just a little context, I'm an artist. That's one. That's honestly, I'm an artist, and I got very inspired by Eastern Japanese animations. And the thing is that I live in a country that is very restrictive, and that sort of thing led me to seek education in a lot of places. So I've been to the West, I've been to the East. So I try to do my best as a science communicator, not to just bridge the how should I say this, the communications between people from the scientific community and the common layman, but also to try and bridge communications between cultures as well. and and I see it happening here in my side of the world, where it's very restrictive and very traditional and very Islamically inspired. I'm not a Muslim, just so you know. And I try to explain to them that the culture there is different. So to see someone from a Western country kind of sort of similar, having a similar stance on it, is just baffling to me, you know what I mean?
He explained to me the situation with his country and also the history behind it. He's from a different minority, and I actually talked to him about that. I am from a different culture as well. I'm actually Puerto Rican, by the way, and I explained to him my culture that I'm not
No one
considered
is.
and I even admit I wasn't perfect.
I mean, of course, no one is. And 1 second, my wife is calling. Hey, you what?
Yeah, he was talking to his wife. Actually married. He's not a loser.
Okay.
He's not. He's
Sorry about
not
that.
any of those things. He's a really
But yeah, to go to
intelligent
what you were
guy.
saying, I mean, no one is wise to everything. That's ridiculous to expect of everybody. And mhm.
Yeah, because I had to explain to him the issue and the situation about Gavin McGinnis, and yeah, I was very upset with Gavin. I told him about the whole situation with Gavin, especially his history, and yeah, it was is crazy. The fact that this all happened, it
Mm.
was interesting enough that he understood the situation. He didn't know about it, but it was kind of interesting
What?
telling him about this
Oh,
stuff
yeah, 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 yeah.
and some other
He did it
stuff.
as some sort of. I'm not familiar with him as a character. I only became of him. I became aware of him in the past few days when I was doing my research
Yeah,
on this
apparently this guy.
deal with anime being this, and it's what led me to the source, that he's the one that came up with the silly ass idea, and then I started looking up who is he as a person, and that's how I became familiar with him being like a
Gavin.
member of this faction called the Proud
Yeah,
Boys.
the Proud Boys. I actually explained to him about the Proud Boys, and the fact that I tried to explain to him that this was it's an FBI sting operation that he was involved in, and that was kind of how I believed that Gavin was a Fed, which that is my
Oh, you mean twice the network? You mean they? I think they introduced some sort of otaku group or something like that.
yeah.
Mm, that's probably
I think I asked him. I think it was something else. Oh yeah, I recall about this one.
yeah, otakus. It's what they called in Japan.
Yeah,
It's these
otakus,
very how should I say this?
passionate
I don't want to say
people.
the word passionate because it's not correct. It's think of it like
Yeah, he
a
was telling
very
me about the
obsessed
otaku
group of
culture
people
thing.
with this sort of very with this visual
Yeah,
style.
they're experts in their own field of anime. Like some of them are archivists,
Yes,
some of them are
but they're doing it
some of them are
not in an
preservists.
entirely innocent way, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, we were talking about the groups, the subcultures, as if I remember correctly. But this is
Mm.
kind of the thing that happened. This is gonna be like a 2 hour stream, guys. So bear with me on this. Yeah, because I'm just trying to
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, even in Japan, like Japan has some weird laws about pornography and art,
yeah, we were
where
talking
they would
about that
allow some
stuff.
things and like disavow some things, and their government even supports some of the art styles that they make because it's great income for their nation,
Yeah, it's an
and
eight
it
billion
opens up
dollar
lots of markets. But I understand that the moral perspective on things is a
it's a
little bit
billion
different
dollar
from a
industry
Western
now.
perspective, and compared to their Eastern perspective. Like, say for an example, the age of consent in Japan is like what, 6 years different from the one in the United States.
Yeah,
I'm assuming you're American, of course.
yeah, and I told him it
Uh,
was actually Puerto Rican. We are kind of a minority in
well, you mean
America.
you are American? Is that sort of?
Yeah, I had to explain to him about that. It's kind of a complicated thing. You know how how it is. But it's
Oh yeah.
interesting.
So you mean your origin? Mm.
Yeah, he thought I was indigenous, but I don't blame him. It's kind of the cultural thing about our culture. Yes, we are indigenous. We have
Yeah,
9%
because you
DNA
are
of
part of the
Tino.
indigenous population also of
Yep,
the land. I
yep,
understand. Yeah.
that's true. 1% indigenous. 1% indigenous. The rest is mixed. Yeah, I found out my dad's DNA is came from Nigeria. I'm not joking. Yes, 13% Nigerian
But yeah,
prince, which
it's why
is
I'm trying to write like a
according to
paper for it,
23andMe.
and
I'm
it's
just
got
joking.
me. I used to work for the UNHCR for context,
Yeah, and
which
he
is
worked.
the
He works for
High
the UN.
Committee for Refugees in the United Nations, and I have my disagreements with them, so I no
Yeah,
longer
he,
like
he's
fully
he has
associate
some
with them, but I
issues
still
with
have
the
to some
the
sort of like
UN,
read
and he told me
reports and
the
address
stuff
some
that
issues
was
and that sort of thing.
behind it.
I have how should we say this, like a busy catalog of things that I'm stuck doing
Yeah, and I
because
feel
I got
bad for the
involved at one
guy.
point
He
in my
told
life,
me,
and this is one of them. And while the UN does a lot of crazy things like support immigration laws and migration laws for some sort of places,
yeah,
and goes against completely reasonable laws in other countries against other reasonable stuff, this is one of those unreasonable things that makes
yeah,
absolutely
and
no
he explained to
sense.
me the issue
And
with
to
Libya.
see, shall we say, internet celebrities,
Yeah,
I don't know what the proper word is, to
and I called him
speak
Ecelebs.
loud about it. Yeah, and celebs, thank you. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly, thank you. To
and I'm trying
like
to recall some of the
have a
stuff that I
hot
talked to him
take, quote
about it.
unquote, on it,
Yeah, and I
which is
even
gonna
brought up
drive a
Hassan on
lot of
this one.
public opinion, the same way it used to do with video games and that sort of thing in the last generation.
Hmm. Yeah.
Hassan Piker, you mean? Oh my
Yeah.
God! Please
We
don't
we
get me
brought up we
started.
brought up him,
Jeez.
and I even brought up Frogan,
Yeah, I
and
I don't watch his stream, but I saw some of his clips there. They make me want to bang my head against the wall.
yeah, he's and we talked about the Turks and everything. Great people, but we talked about
And it's
the
always the most
brutality
detached
about.
people from whatever subject that they want to talk about are the ones with these hot takes. It makes sense, but it confuses me because I don't get where they get the confidence to have an opinion on something that they have literally no connection to or
Yeah,
understanding of. It's what confuses me the most, honestly,
yeah, he knows what's
and it's
going
what makes
on
me
because he lives in that country,
yes, yes,
and talking to
that
him was
too.
interesting.
I dealt with them. I dealt with them for some time. I know how they're like.
And the Turks. Yeah, I brought up the Turks. But it wasn't mean or anything like that. But we talked
It
about the.
depends also on which region or area, I should say, of Turkey. Because if they're like from the main urbanized capital, Istanbul sort of places, you'll see them living because they're, even though their countries still have secular laws and it's
Yeah,
applied. If you live somewhere in the suburbans or outskirts
and
of
it
the
was
country,
interesting.
the culture is very different. Like not even law enforcement get involved in like village issues, that sort of thing. So they develop completely different perspectives on the world, and they have yeah.
Yeah, and I talked about a lot of
Mm.
things with him. I think it was something to do
You
with
heard stories.
with let me see, Frogan, I believe, if I remember. Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was Frogan. I said that I wanted Frogan. I
I
want her
mean,
banned from.
technically, he was the Ottoman Empire slave sort of thing.
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
Because they still have that same
yeah.
mentality if you
Oh yeah,
especially
I was
work
talking
with the
about my
military.
dad. He worked in the military, training with the Turks, and it was kind of hilarious. Like he
I
was
guess all
pissed
military
off.
fathers are the like. Mine is somewhat like that too.
Yeah, my father was pissed. Yeah, I remember I told the story about my dad. He was in the military and he was stationed in Turkey and he was a slave. Yes, that's right, a slave.
I can assure you, it's not Turkey. It's mostly the military. But yeah,
Yeah,
if you spend a significant amount of time there, it leaves you with a decent impression on how they're like. And
yeah,
while yes,
and
they
they
are
work very
genuinely
hard. And
honest
I
and
even
nice
said they
people
work very hard.
overall,
They work
depending
very
on
hard.
which region you end up in, you have to keep in mind they're the same people behind the Armenian genocide and that sort of culture.
Yeah, and I can understand.
So yeah,
And we bring up Anna Kasperi and everything, all that other stuff.
I hate it. I'm sure.
You
I'm sure you hate
mentioning the
it.
Young Turks, and we joked around about that.
Right. Yeah, 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 what I find most hilarious, especially about the group called the Young Turk, I think they became a big deal or something.
Yeah,
It's
they
that they
were.
have a lady that works there who is Armenian. I think her name is Anna
Yeah,
Kasparian
we
or
were
something.
talking
Yes,
about the
yes.
Young Turks
Her name is Anna
YouTube
Kasparian.
channel,
She is Armenian,
and we were
and
having
she
fun with that.
defends Gangs or what's his name, the CEO of the
Yeah,
network,
I kind of
the
forgot
founder,
about this one, which I'll
fat guy
admit.
that acts silly most of the time, yells and flares his arms around. I think it's Hassan's cousin or something. Wow, what a family!
Oh, jeez. And I muted my mic on this one. It was like, and I feel bad that this is a recording of it. So,
As
as
a child, in my country, we didn't have a lot of TV here. Most of the TV was, it had to be because my country was ruled by a communist regime during Gaddafi.
yeah,
What they did is that they had to approve of every media that is being broadcast to the people via the local network. We didn't have satellites, we didn't have receivers, we didn't have any
yeah,
sort
and
of
he
thing
explained
because you
the
needed the
issue,
government's approval to have it. And, yeah, and you couldn't,
and he
so you had to
explained
watch whatever is locally approved at the time. And one of my earliest experiences with anime was with the Sinbad show.
the
It's the same
Sinbad.
story as Sinbad, but the Japanese made it into a TV series.
Yeah,
Yes, they made it into an animated series using the
Toho.
Japanese earlier style. It kept it true to its original stories from Babylonians and the Arabians and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
was interesting. Like
but
he
they
explained his
animated it
experience.
in the Japanese style, and it's one of my earliest experiences of anime. Of course, as I became a teenager, things changed. The world became more open. Even in our
Yeah,
communist country, the internet and computers became a thing. And I had a passion for art even since then, and it's how I became drawn to a lot of Western comics and Japanese manga, which is like their comics, just the Japanese versions of them.
yeah,
And I find myself drawn to a lot of Western and Eastern stories. Like I'm a huge fan of Marvel, for an example, from the Western style. And yeah, and
yep.
I'm a huge fan of the shonen genre when I was a teenager in the Japanese style, and I find a lot of similarities between them. The
Mm-hmm.
word shonen in itself means young man or youth growing up. So even the genre itself was very well made for the demographic that I was in at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not hard to find why I was attracted to it. But as I grow up now, and as I developed, like I become media literate, and I graduated from different departments. Just for context, I became a science communicator because I got a secondary physics degree, but mainly I got an arts degree as a visual artist because it's the medium now. But I
He's,
had to study a lot of
he's
arts and
highly achievable
psychology
on this one.
in that sort of thing. And yes, but mostly studied it because of the psychological aspects. Because artistically, now we do a lot of stuff on computers and that sort of thing, so I don't need to worry too much about colors or art style. You know what I mean? There's a lot of how should I
And
put
there
it?
was some interesting stuff that he
Languages
talked
and art
about.
to communicate through. I
We
mean,
talked
music
about
is
the
one of
AI
them if you're going to
thing
work on
in a few minutes.
like say a video game or something.
Yep.
So we didn't worry too much about that. I worried more about the psychological aspect of how arts communicates with people.
Yeah.
And so now I look back on a lot of the art that I used to watch. It's very rich in what's the proper word for this in English? In social engineering, ethically, I should say.
Yeah.
It yes, it basically conditions you to be more empathetic towards people.
Yeah.
Say for an example, in a lot of Western comics, the hero and the villain are very clear. In a lot of Eastern comics, it's absolutely a gray area because you can empathize with the villain, even though you know what he's doing is wrong, because you can see its implication in the world, but you know he's also a
Mm-hmm.
victim of his circumstances as well. You see what I mean? Yeah. So it's that aspect that makes every character humane, even though they're not human. Like some of the characters in these shonen mangas or anime, they're not human. They can be from a different species. They can be a soul. They can be an inanimate force. But you can understand why it ended up in this situation, and this whole thing could have been avoided if people acted just a little bit better. There's a African proverb that says the boy that wouldn't feel the village's warmth would set it in fire just to feel it. And yeah, and they embody that in a lot of their artwork,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very very beautiful. And I wish more cultures understood that.
Yeah, and it's a very interesting conversation. See if I can remember this one. Hopefully he brings up
Hmm.
something because I need to recall what I
Absolutely.
talked to him about. It's just we talked about some
Yep.
anime stuff. We talked about something here. Let me see if I can remember. Man, this is tough to remember.
Yeah, yeah. I see something. For fuck's sake.
Yeah,
My
yeah. See if I remember here. This is something I joked around about,
No,
but
no, it happens. It happens. I don't worry about how it started. I worry about how it ends.
yeah, we were talking about some
Now,
things. We I showed him some.
hmm,
Hmm.
nice.
Yeah.
You know what? You know the sad bit about it is that the Arabs hate it. That's the saddest part. Is that it takes a lot of the Arabic culture. Like
Yeah,
Sinbad
and we were
itself is not
talking.
Arabic. It's
Yeah,
mostly Ottomani's and whatnot. It's from Babylonian stories
yeah,
and myths.
yeah,
But what I find sad is that the aspects of it that they actually got inspired by the Arabics of the culture, the Arabs here hate it, and I don't get why. I
yeah,
often try to talk to people who are like from my local communities who are Arabs. I'm not Arab. I'm Mazight. I'm a native North African.
yeah,
But we have a huge Arabic population here, and I communicate with them all the time, and it confuses me why they hate it.
yeah. It was interesting to talk to him about it because
Oh,
he,
bye.
he
One
explains
second. Let
his
me do
culture.
something for and come back.
Yeah, and that was his
One moment.
wife that he was talking to. It's gonna take a while. I know that it's not gonna be an interesting video. I just accidentally muted my mic, and it wasn't like I tried to talk to him about it. These are just recordings that I did. I should have put the audio logs of the talking to him about it since I forgot to mute the mic. And that was really, and I really feel bad. I really do feel bad that I accidentally muted the mic because that was just, it just sucks. And let's see, hopefully he comes back. I might have to skip that part. I wish I could skip it. It's like, damn. Oh yeah, I was playing some audio. Come on. Let's see if I can skip that part. No.
Texting two was from Turning Red, which is a Disney video, and I don't need
Yeah.
to. That's a Western production.
No.
I don't
No.
correlation between Texting two was from
Hey,
Turning
I
Red,
wish
which
I
is a
could
Disney
skip
video, and I
it.
don't need to. That's a Western production. I don't correlation between
Yeah.
Japanese animation and pedophilia. Like, what? How do you do that
How
mental
do I
gymnastics to get there?
more options? I wish I could skip the videos. What sucks about that is that I'm trying to but he actually had some interesting stuff to say. Like I was kind of surprised listening to him. Um, as far as I know, these were really reasonable conversations that we had. He explained his culture and everything. He explained what was going on over there, and it was interesting enough talking to him about it. It was like, because we both were because the reason why I admit my ego was pretty bad. See if I can get this thing to work. Hopefully, it'll fast forward everything and treat it well. Because I'm gonna have to try another player. I can't even fast forward some of the stuff that he said. And oh boy, that's gonna be really funny to play. See if it plays. Plays the disc. No disc detected. Open file.
Acting too was from Turning Red, which is a Disney video, and I don't need to.
Let's see if I can fast forward here. Cool. Play. Let's see if I can play.
Thank you. To have a hot take, quote unquote, on it, which is gonna drive a lot of public opinion.
Yeah.
The same way it used to do with video games and that sort of thing in the last generation.
Yeah. And we had some interesting
Hassan Piker, you mean? Oh my God! Please don't get me started. Jeez.
Yeah. Yeah, and I brought up Hassan Piker when it was one of the talking points. Let me go ahead and fast forward.
That's it.
Okay, play. Yeah, we were joking about some stuff. Let's see, that was the one.
It's not. Yeah, it's not material for kids. Period. Like hentai is exclusively pornography. That's what the word hentai in Japanese means, perverted.
Yeah.
Like that's literally the English translation of the word hentai. Like if a girl yells at you and says you're a hentai, she pretty much means that you're a pervert. Or you're someone who is not socially acceptable, doing something that is socially unacceptable in a sexually provocative way, or harassing her sexually or something. So it's literally an insult in Japan.
Yeah,
to say
he is correct. He is correct. And we were like talking about some stuff about this. I even gave him the links to the Vice documentary.
So here it says it's talking to a specific artist, and I know who he is because he's very popular for his weird stuff.
Yeah,
his name
I told him
Toshio
about
Maidea, and he makes technical porn, and that's the thing. Like consider your average
he knows
porn,
he knows the stuff.
This guy makes.
Let me see if I can skip through this. Let's see if I can find.
When they're still toddlers, we don't know what it's going to do to their attention spans. There are lots of chemicals that we give to a lot of apparently healthy people, but not according to psychologists, because they have exism or whatever, anxiety or whatever, anxiety or whatever disorder. Just pump them full of chemicals instead of teaching them healthy habits. It's happening all over the world, and I see it even in my country here, where it's poor and developing and very conservative. It still falls into the same trend, just on a different way, and it makes me wonder,
Yeah, because we were talking about this situation with children and everything. It was interesting enough that education-wise and everything was kind of interesting. Let me see if I could skip through that.
Because after, yeah.
Let me see. And we're talking about AI.
Mine was one of the countries that was restricted, and I have
the PlayStation
250
one.
hours in game, and I have all 28 achievements. And to see the game just getting bricked on my computer was not gonna happen on my on my watch. I fought an entire government in 2011. I'm not gonna fall to a stupid corporation, not with managed democracy and liberty on my side. That ain't happening.
Yeah. And this guy's from Libya, so I will say this: he was upset about this, and I was right behind him because I do have family in Puerto Rico, and they
Yep.
actually blacklisted
Every independent
his
country that is not in
that
the
country
locked
too.
trade agreements with them and that sort of thing. Yep.
Yeah, and it was like the trade agreements and everything. Yeah, and that was like another thing. It's also taxes, and it was like a lot of stuff that we were talking about, especially with the
Yes, they
context
do.
of it.
It quite literally, we have Sony PlayStation on our markets here, sold by how should I say this? Like leased stores that sell PlayStation products here.
Yeah,
And I bought it from Steam where it was listed in my region. I get an advertisement? That's literally how I became familiar with the first game, and that's how I became familiar with the second game when it came out. Like, what are they talking about? It's
and I
BS.
do agree with them on it because it was like BS how they sold the game
Yes. Yeah, the
internationally.
stores I was talking about, I meant the consoles.
Yeah, and the consoles like the PlayStation 5 and everything. Like I asked him about
I've
that.
had every PlayStation ever. And admittedly, yes, I got the first one from Switzerland, but the second one I bought here, the third, the fourth, and I don't own the fifth yet, and I might not. But yeah, they sell it here just fine. I know a lot of people that own it. So they're BSing.
Yeah,
Mm. Yeah, me too. Me too. Yeah, I bought the third one. That is the slim one too.
yeah. And I actually admitted I bought the Slim. Yeah, and we were talking about the system and everything, and it was kind of interesting talk
Me neither.
about Sony, and it's like we are upset with Sony what they're doing, and I can relate to him because
Yeah,
I'm right
it's not.
behind this.
I'm a PC gamer mostly, and I.
Yeah, and we were talking
Oh
about
yeah.
PC stuff and AI and everything. You'd be surprised. Like he talked about AI. That was actually interesting enough.
Mm. Comment general.
See if I can get the audio
Oh
correctly.
yeah, we've been doing lots of that for, especially with like language modules
Yeah,
for the
language models
past
for AI,
5 6 years, something like that.
and it does
I'm
translations
not
though.
very strong when it comes to AI, but yeah, yeah, I've seen it. I've seen lots of that. It's
And it was interesting though because we were like watching this. And it was like okay,
language
yeah,
translation. You mean localization, sort of like like the voice acting and whatnot.
yeah. And we told them about what was
Yeah,
going on,
I expected.
and we told them what was going on there.
Mhm, mhm. Yep, yep. Seen it. No, no, I've seen what they do, and that's why when you said now that they're going to implement AI, I was like, I knew it was going to happen. As soon as they remove the human factor out of it, they could remove the biases of all of
Yeah,
these translators and all of these voice actors.
yeah,
It's gonna solve a lot of these problems because
yeah,
I see how egregious it got. Because I speak a
yeah,
little bit of Japanese and I seen how egregious it got. Like it's
yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah. He
I
knows
don't
about the
watch
drama that
dubbed
happened.
anime, and most of the anime that I find here is going to be in Arabic, or I just watch it in the original language in Japanese. And I don't speak Japanese fluently to enjoy it, so I have to at least find something that is subbed by a language I could read, either it's English or Arabic, or Tifinagh, which is rare because my mother language. It's not very popular, so I don't think any company is going to pay a lot of money to translate it. It's not marketable. But when I do, I enjoy it. Yeah, the point is that I see the difference. Like I can I have a reference to compare with. I know that's not
Yeah,
what they're saying, and I know that it's someone's conscious decision to manipulate the message here in order to further some sort of agenda or an
yeah.
idea. And
He was talking
it's
about that
so
stuff, the
sad.
drama that was happening.
It's like an insult to the original art, you know.
Yeah, he heard about the
So I
drama that's
knew as
been
soon as you
happening.
said they're gonna implement AI into that, I was like, I knew it. I didn't think about it, but I knew something like that was gonna end up.
Yeah.
In English, yeah. So
Yeah.
it kept the same pronunciation, the same accent, and the same voice
Yep.
monotones, that sort
Yep.
of thing.
Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Yeah, because I remember telling about the AI voice acting of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. There was like a clip that someone made.
Oh my god, I did not know of it, but I can imagine.
Oh
I can
God!
just
Now I gotta make
imagine.
another video. They're now accusing Joe Cat of being a pedo,
It's
which
the
I'm upset
same.
about. That's that's stupid.
Jesus. It's cuckoldry, just cartoonized or whatever the proper term for it. Gee.
Oh, this is so bad. I really hate when these people do that stuff. That's cruel. That is cruel. I hate them for doing that. Oh yeah, we were talking about some stuff. Yeah, I'm just looking up some things. Yeah, we were making. I was just joking around like a little bit, but let me see if I can accelerate this a little bit more because we were talking about it. I even showed him links to the
Yeah. Yep.
to the whole.
Some sort of investment or saving in some sort of real estate. And that's why China
Yeah,
has all of these ghost towns.
yeah, we were talking about China,
And
and that was interesting though.
teenage, what do you call it? Teen Titans. It's sort of drawn a bit like an anime style, but it's
Yeah,
not because it's very Western inspired.
yeah,
It's
it
drawn in the
was.
same way this game, Cloud Meadow. Uh, so yeah, I just find it ridiculous that they made all this big deal over nonsense like anime. It makes absolutely no sense. Honestly,
Yeah.
we could talk like for years about this, and I'm happy actually. I'm kind of happy actually
Do
that we
we?
started
Yeah.
in the way we did because, like I said
I'm gonna
earlier,
invite that
every
guy next
diamond needs
time,
lots of pressure and lots of friction to happen.
and I think
So
he's a good
the fact
guy.
that we started from there and got here just goes to show how ridiculous this is. I mean,
Yeah, because luckily, I think he probably will do the whole anime thing. Mm, let's see.
and I have to under yeah, yeah, and I have to. I remember something you said in the video that you were a former deputy, and I have to empathize with you as well because you.
He thought I was the deputy, but no, no, no. I wasn't a former deputy. I'm
Oh, I thought it
actually.
was you. My bad.
It was actually another guy that was doing that. So apparently it was a mistranslation on that part, but I don't blame him. It was kind of a. I told him like, look, I'm not a police officer. I haven't served,
Yeah, yeah.
but I do
I
know the
don't.
law. I do know the laws. It's like it's not like everybody researches them. So
Yeah.
we were like talking about something here, if I can remember. Oh boy, Joe Cat. Why did they have to attack him for this? And then now they're attacking him again.
It makes somewhat of a sense. It makes somewhat of a sense because these platforms are big and they have a huge responsibility to hold, and they don't want to ruin it for the rest of the community. So,
Yeah. Yeah, it's kind of weird.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's been registered in the United States. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. See if I remember this. Yeah.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we're talking about it. Talking about some things, if I remember, because we were talking about something, but I can't recall what it was.
It makes sense, really. It makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, if you are someone that wants to consume the sort of media, you shouldn't. You should. It shouldn't be as easily accessible. Just out of safety precautions for the public in general. But if you're an adult and you want to go out of your way and find this, there are ways to do that. It shouldn't be on a platform where like all sorts of games can be like a big gaming library like Steam, for an example.
Yeah.
And I know why these creators want to do that, because money is an incentive. Like, that's what they're making is a product, and they want to sell it. And I get it, but at the same time, they need to be, how should I say this, conscious of what decisions they're making. Anime as well. In regards to anime as well, this.
Yeah. And it's crazy.
Yeah, just because of the implications of it. Yeah, I get it.
And we were pissed. Yeah, I was thinking I was talking about something about a drama that happened with the anime community, and the
Honey,
fact,
but I see it. It looks like anime, actually. Wow.
yeah, I think I showed him some anime stuff like Steven's Universe. I think it was like mentioning Steven's
Oh, it's
Universe.
like a phone game. It's a match three. I'm looking. I just clicked it on YouTube now. See, it's
Oh yeah, I think it was a
like a
video
match
game.
three sort of thing with story.
Yeah, I was telling him about the Roblox game. Like I was Nikkei, and I think it was the other one. Let me see if I can fast
Amazing.
forward it. Oh yeah, it was Honey Pop. That's actually was what I was talking about. Like I told him about Honey Pop, which was actually
Of
pretty good.
ridiculous flash games where people would be punching celebrities, making them
Yeah,
drink acid.
and we were talking about visual
I remember a
novels.
lot of like,
Yeah, we were talking about visual novels.
the more I listen to him talk,
Let's see, who do I?
while I hate, yeah, while I hate its gun because it's very inaccurate, it's cool. It's a very cool aircraft. It's very American. It has a personality behind it.
Yeah,
Very resilient, and for good reason too. To be honest with you, I mean,
the
it's a
Warhog.
slow
We were talking
aircraft
about
that
the.
does its job for you country, which is their home country. Let me tell you something. Every Arab and every Muslim knows that it's their home country
Yeah,
because it's in their Quran and it's in their history. I mean, they quite literally call them Bani Israel. Bani means the sons of, or the land, or the people of. That's why they know them by tribes, for an example. Like Muhammad in his history, he
yeah,
fought Bani Qaynuqa, Bani Shahif, Bani. These are Jewish tribes that used to live around the area of Medina and that sort of thing.
oh,
That's in their region right there, like right next to Saudi Arabia and Jordan and what they call today Palestine and Gaza, or in West Bank, Gharbiya. So they
yeah,
know it's,
yeah,
say again,
and
uh,
yeah, and I brought up
Khazarians
the
mostly.
Khazarians. I brought up the Khazarians, the Khazarian tribe. Oh yeah, we were talking about the
I'm
Jews.
trying to. I suspected it's how it's pronounced. I never heard it before, but I suspected that's how it's pronounced.
Yeah, we were talking about the Khazarians.
Oh, fuck off.
Yeah, we were talking about them.
No, goddamn no. It's probably a tribe area named that or something.
Yeah, because we brought up the Khazarians. He never heard of
Mm.
them, so yeah, that was kind of the other thing we were talking about. The Jews, the histories, because they were called
Ashkenazi.
tribes.
Yeah, yeah. They were Ashkenazis. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
These I. Mm.
yeah, they're and I brought up the
It's still,
Ashkenazis.
it's still, it's still the same thing. Like, think about Latins for an example. Some
Yeah,
people would
and he
say, "Oh,
explained
Latins
that.
look like this, Latin looks like that." Like, Latin is a cultural thing. It's
Yeah,
not
he's
just
kind
a
of correct
big
on that
thing.
one.
So you're gonna find a Latina who's Spanish, who's blonde with green eyes, and she
Yeah,
looks
and they do
exactly like a
exist. I know in
German
my
woman.
culture they do
At the same
exist.
time, you find a Latina who is
Even in Spain, they do exist. There are women with green eyes in Spanish culture, and that's in
course,
Spain.
of course. Like I am more pasty white than
And
a
he
polar bear
explains his
skunk,
culture too.
and I am Libyan, and it's for a reason because I'm a Tmazigh, and my people existed here since the Punic Roman Greek wars. Like I myself am a Punic Roman Greek person, and we are quite literally the indigenous people of North Africa and the region. So so when you see Libya's demographic today, it's 99% Arabic, and then there are a few areas like Sawara and Jabal where people actually still speak Tifina, which is the ancient language, my mother language that I actually speak around home,
Mhm.
and I speak Arabic and English as secondaries. So it's just how it is. So for people to say, "Nah, these are not Jews" or something like that, it makes absolutely no sense. But to get back to the
Yeah, it was interesting because they were like
yeah,
talking about that.
2,500 years or so ago. Like how, like okay, that's before your entire theology was even born. Like Islam is only
Yeah,
1,400 years old for crying out loud. What are
yeah,
you, what are they talking
and
about?
and this is like the
Yes, yeah,
and we were talking about some crazy stuff historically. Like it was interesting. Like he brought up some points, and I kind of agree with him on it because these were just crazy stuff that we said. But as far as I know, yeah, I would rather listen to him talk about this stuff.
yeah, yes, yes. What happened? What happened is that the Muslims crawled out all the way from Al Jazeera in Arabia to where it's Saudi Arabia today. They
Yeah.
marched all the way on the edge of the map, across the Red Sea, over the Mediterranean, crossing Egypt, and then Libya, and then Tunisia, and then Morocco, and then
Hmm.
Algeria, and then reaching Algeria, turning north,
And of course,
crossing
Spain.
on that ridge to Spain, conquering Spain, and renaming it to Al Andalus, to where they were at the edges of Europe, quite literally in Europe, to where the kingdoms of Europe and the church said,
Yeah.
"Nuh-uh."
Yeah. And
Yeah, they conquered Spain quite literally. They took over. They had a caliphate on it and everything.
yeah.
So then the Crusades decided to say, "Nuh-uh." They had a holy war with them because these are spreading Islam by sword all the way to there.
Yeah.
So they had to be pushed back, and the pushback pushed them all the way back to the Holy Lands.
And that was like
And
the
then they had
Crusades.
a big name. You probably heard of him. It's called Salah ad-Din al-Ayyubi.
Sahala Hadin.
Of course, of course. So he brought an entire army, sieged Jerusalem,
Yeah, he did.
took over it, and then he held it by sword until later generations what they had the second Jewish Arabic war, which only ended by the end, which was like a push and pull of like skirmishes between generations of people every now and then, where like a million people die just casually, until the Second World War. like it's insane to say that that's not their land or anything like that. But to get back on the topic of a cause, yes, yeah, well, you can see how this new today's generation don't have a cause, so they cling to everything
Yeah,
like
and
that.
we
Like they're
talked
trying to
about
find
about
everything
Antifa and other
evil.
groups, and it was funny. He was kind of correct on it. It was like he was on point about people like teenagers don't have a cause, which is true, and I kind of agreed with him full heartedly about it because yeah, there are people that are
Yeah, yeah, it's polarizing the country because of this. It's the I think the what you're trying to explain, right?
yeah
Yeah,
yeah, and it
yeah.
is, and we're
That's
encountered that
one
group.
aspect of it, and the second aspect of it is that the old economy, businesses, entertainment, consumables, etc. It's becoming a war on your time. On yeah, yes, but the most important resource in all of this is your time.
Yeah,
Like
and
you're
he's
not
kind of
fighting,
correct
for
on this
example,
one,
over minerals or that sort of thing, because all these things can be acquired.
and he's correct on this one that
Uh,
because it does do with advertising and
yes,
such.
yeah, but that's always been a thing. It's just now exacerbated because it's thrown into the general public, which is not prepared for all of this. And what I was trying to explain is, for an example, I think somebody, I don't know where I heard it before, but it's not my own idea to be fair, but someone very expressed it in a very good way before, and it helps into like enforcing my hypothesis is that these companies are they have no more land to explore, they have no more resources to explore, so the new resource is you.
Yeah,
Your time, your
he's
attention
right.
span is
He's
the new
right.
resource because
He's right.
if they can yes, yes, thank you, very good example. If they can, yeah, if they can fill your time with the information they want, if they can capture as much as possible of your attention span,
Yep.
they can turn you into an instrument of whatever intentions they have,
Yeah.
that being corporations or governments or you name it. So this is the new
This is
frontier
kind of
now
like
of
the.
human
This is
attention
kind of like
span and
how
human
Nintendo
perception.
fans are
So that's
defending
why all the
Nintendo.
information is weird. That's why
Um,
all these companies trying to do all these tactics to monopolize your time all the time. That's why everything needs to be flashy. Every title needs to be crazy. Everybody needs to do
yep,
something that
he's
is
right.
hot button. Yes. So combine these two together, and what you will have is everybody's trying to be insane to have a moment, and
And he is
everybody that is
correct.
insane will have a moment and will have a lot of people following them because the insanity makes sense to them somehow against all reason.
He is correct.
No, I get it because it is insane and the reaction to have to it is outrage. That's and I feel like that's the intention behind it. Like I almost believe it.
Yeah, and we were discussing a lot of political stuff and a lot of stuff that he talks about. He's a reasonable man about it. Like he hates this crap that he's dealing with right now in his own country, which I find interesting. And we were conversating about this, and I wish I had some better ways to talk about this because it was interesting enough that
My God. I mean, they're people after all.
yeah. Yeah, we were talking about this stuff. It was interesting. We were
Yes.
basically conversating about the whole issue, but if I remember correctly, because considering I was muted on that one, I will admit
Hmm.
that was funny. Let's
Yeah, yeah, I know. I'm familiar with that.
let's see, let's see.
Oh God.
Yeah, I think I was talking to him about science or something.
Oh, that's the guy you were talking about that was apparently quote unquote Christian, that sort of thing.
Yeah, yeah, Nick Rekieta. That was the other one. It was the Jeff Baker guy, and I brought up Jeff Baker. That was the guy who caused the scandal, had an affair with another woman who happens to be Sam Kinnison's ex widow, and it was kind of sad though. Sad story about Sam Kinison. He was a great comedian of his time. Sadly, he passed away back in the days. See if I can find something here. Let's see. I remember this one. Let me skip this.
The loudest, most obnoxious people that cry with the most righteous so-called messages are the ones that have skeletons in their closets.
Yeah,
Oh,
and he was always
it every time without fail. Like
yeah, every time.
I have to go look him up.
Yeah, we have like televan. Like I was talking about, like a televangelist, like Jim Baker, and that was the guy that we were looking up. Yeah, and it was funny.
Wait, is he just to confirm something? Is he the same guy with the series that's called Wealth with God? Oh my god!
Yeah,
So I don't know him by name, but I heard a lot of stuff about this tithe thing in Christianity where you have to pay the church money, and a lot of these pastors, a lot of these evangelists, they're trying to like monetize what they're doing using it. And it brought some examples, and this was one of them, like this
yeah,
movement of how to save your dollar from infiltration by wealth with God, sort of thing. Like, like give me a seed and I'll turn it into a tree, sort of situation. It's
yeah.
a scam.
He's sort of right about it. I was like,
Yeah, yeah. Or like you'll be blessed and your money will be blessed and cleansed, so you'll make more of it. It's a scam. It's a quite literally a scam. God.
he is sort of correct on this one. And it was a funny. We had a really good conversation about it. So let me see if I can remember. Like, yeah, I brought up Jim Baker, which
Program myself into not falling into, like, it's a mental pitfall to give up like that, so I had to program myself out of not doing that. And I am mysticized at the same time by my emotional side of things, the artistic side of things, to always want to like see more and find more. So I, while I respect a lot of people that think these things or believe these things, I'd love to be able one day to actually
yeah,
give them a conclusive explanation for it. So I can't just like say, yeah, that's a good answer to this thing, and yeah, it's miraculous, and just give up. It's just it's just very difficult for me to do, and I hope you understand why.
yeah, and he was defending his position on this one, and I respected him enough to know that he wasn't trying to be
Yeah, it's like
malicious on
mine's a
anything.
forthrow.
But he was
I'd
correct
fail
to
at
talk
having a
about this.
mind if I didn't do that.
But he was correct on his stance on everything. So let me see if I remember what else did we talk about.
Me and my wife into, and like my parents took to have the house that we live in right now, and I want to like finish the new house so I can move into and have a privacy, because I don't have kids yet, and we might plan on having kids either here
Yeah,
or if we leave.
here or leave the country.
Well, we're not building houses out of wood in my country. Sadly, we have to build them out of brick.
Yeah, cinder block, which his country does
It's sad
use.
because the climate here sucks. I'd love to build a house out of wood like the Western houses. I love them, but
Yeah,
sadly I can't. Yeah, I
yeah,
have to actually use Justin Gier and yeah, cinder blocks and the old white block.
yeah. He knew
Nice. Yeah, climate
what it
here sucks, so
is.
I have to build them out of cinder blocks, concrete, and those white Gier bricks that you have to
Yeah,
pull,
and we and
pull
we
out of
use
sea salt.
sand.
So as soon as I finish this house, I'm gonna move into it, of course, and I'm gonna have a very dedicated space.
Yeah, and they live with, and he
Yeah,
has. They
yep.
live in a bigger
That's
house.
that's majority for like pillars and supports. Same for us here. And but because of the very humid climate, we have to use something that is locally known as blukka, which is made out of no, it's white. It's like pasty white, like flour or sugar.
Oh,
But it's like a block. It's very solid. It's very heavy, and it's
yeah,
made out of sea salt, so it doesn't disintegrate.
yeah,
Oh, exactly. And doesn't disintegrate to Tripoli or the coasts of Zawara, so they can get on boats, so they can go to Lambad. Very, very gullible. I got it. And the old white block.
Okay, back here to the UN thing. He talks about
Nice.
something that he
Yeah,
revealed to
climate
me
here
that was
sucks, so I have to
interesting,
build them out of cinder blocks, concrete, and those white Gier bricks that you have to pull out of sea
which
salt.
were really interesting.
So as soon as I finish this house, I'm gonna move into it, of course, and I'm gonna have a very dedicated space.
Yeah, let's see. Hopefully, he
Yeah,
explains it.
yep. That's majority for like pillars and supports. Same for us here. And but because of the very humid climate, we have to use something that is locally known as blukka, which is made out of no, it's white. It's like pasty white, like flour, which is like no, like development programs to get countries out of poverty or for
Yeah,
education or for like yes, that's the B in the DB for is the developmental
here it
uh,
is.
part, and the UNHCR, which is the High Committee for Refugees.
Yeah, we were talking about the UN
And
stuff.
between the two, I've seen how they get exploited a lot. Like they would try to support, like say for an example, a small organization, and that organization turns out to be the most horrible thing ever. And almost everybody knows, except for the people that supports it from the UN, the because they get personal, because they have to sit with them and meet with them and talk to them and discuss things with them, and they get attached. And when you form social connections with people, you empathize with them, and they pick people specifically dedicated to that role, these organizations, so they know how to get traction and support from these UN supporters.
Yeah,
And when they get the funding and when they get the support and when they get the money and you get into a place of power, the game changes. And that's happening every time. Every time.
and he talks about the immigration issue. This is actually really interesting stuff. In his home country, they
People who are
they are
in
leaving the
need,
country.
yes. Like in the like for an example, when I worked with the UNHCR here, I worked as a security advisor for them because I speak Arabic, because I know the land, because I fought before, so I know all of the revolutionaries and I know some of the people here. I
Yeah,
fought in 2011 against Gaddafi, so I
yeah,
have a bit of a reputation in hell. And
yeah. He's like a
in
war
my
here.
time just
He's a
working with the
sort of
UNHCR, we all
he
know
was a rebel
that most of the people
when he
that
fought
enter
Gaddafi.
Libya enter with the purpose of crossing to Italy and to enter Europe. That's the entire purpose of them crossing the Big
If
Sahara
anybody
Desert
wants me to get
and the
him, I
Kufra
can
Desert
I
at
can
the southern
contact him
borders
for
of
you guys.
Libya,
I know who he
and
is.
finding people to smuggle them, for an example, all the way to Tripoli or the coasts of
Great
Zawara,
guy.
so they can get on boats, so they can go to Lampedusa in Italy,
Yeah.
so they can enter illegally into Europe. I know it by detail. Almost everybody knows it by detail, and we almost
Yeah, and I talked to him about the situation with
no one wants
immigrants.
them there. And they used to pay the former government, corrupt as it is, to do something about them. And when we
Yeah,
had a
and they're
dictatorship,
accepting money.
Sucky
That's
as it
what
is
the
also,
Italian
at least
government
we had
is.
a
They don't realize
functional government held by an iron fist, but a functional government nevertheless. So after the revolution,
millions
we
of
don't.
dollars.
And it's all in the hands of, shall we say, militias. No, militias here in Libya is what I'm saying. And these militias, yeah, the Libyan militias. And these militias can be bought and sold, and sometimes they act as the smugglers themselves.
Yep.
Who do you think gets the money? From where? How? And you'll find
And it
that
was
it
the UN
trickles
people.
down through complex processes from all of these humanitarian organizations.
Yeah, they're the ones that are. The UN is actually
Some,
funding this
some
stuff.
yes, some no. Like some, for an example, would see all of these refugees that are stuck here in Libya because they got smuggled and robbed out of all their resources, and now they're stuck in a different country with nowhere to go, so they have to work anything and just quite literally survive on the streets.
Yeah, and he's correct about the situation with the UN. This is like the biggest problem with a lot of
Mhm.
immigrants that come here. When I discussed with him about that issue, he kind of points out this UN thing. They are being lied to by the UN people showing up to these countries unexpected to be
Yeah,
promised
yeah,
with a lot of
yeah.
these like benefits, money, food, and a lot of other stuff. And they have to understand none of this stuff is for free, though. You have to abide by the rules of how you spend that money and all that other stuff. And of course, we talked about the fact that there are immigrants that come to this country and they feel so betrayed
Why?
and angry
For
that
what
some of them
for?
want to come back home. And it was kind of interesting talking to him about it. Like this shit about the
Venting
immigration,
rage.
like raged, like angry. Like people, you see the videos of
Oh
immigrants
my god.
getting angry and violent. Like I talked about that issue. Like I can understand that the immigrants are so frustrated and
Oh my
angry,
god.
and we
Why is it
talked.
always the social workers?
Yeah,
Ah,
and I talked to him about that incident where we had a video of a woman getting pounded by a
yeah, yeah.
immigrant,
It's
and it was
most
so
likely.
funny. It was funny, like she was getting pounded by an immigrant, and that was like the most disturbing video I ever watched. Like a social worker was trying to help an immigrant, but instead she got raped from behind, and that video went viral online. Like no joke. Like this was literally a crazy thing I told him about, and it was like disturbing enough that
Again, yeah, it's because these organizations give them this idea that if they escape, they're gonna enter like some sort of paradise where everything
yeah,
is just gonna be handed to them.
yeah,
If you see some of these brochures they give them or these little videos that they promote to them, and you see all these organizations connecting them with people to get them to run away or smuggle them sometimes, whether willingly or not, because not all organizations are crazy. Some of them are, very rarely. Some of them like act individually as people within these organizations. They use these organizations as platforms so they can get in touch with these people to try and fight some colonialism bullshit or whatnot.
oh,
No,
and he mentions this group. Keep in mind,
right.
this group, this organizations that are doing this, they are trying to do this whole colonization. They're
Yeah, yeah,
anti-colonialists, but yet they're sending out immigrants to other
exactly.
countries
Yeah,
to fuck with the
they're everywhere.
governments.
Yep, yep, yep. They're crazy people that just have this weird perception of the world and no understanding of history or culture or anything, and just repeat these slogans. And when you arrive to a person who was born in within the last uh, decade or two, let's just say, like take a young man who's in his 90s or early 20s.
Yeah,
He never had a formal education. He only speaks broken French because that's the language people speak in is in the area, and
yeah,
he speaks some form of Hausa and Swahili. And
yeah. And I actually mentioned we have a culture called Creole in our country. They speak Swahili mixed with French, and that was kind of an interesting conversation we had about that. And it's like broken French, Swahili and French. We
Yeah,
call it Creole.
and this person have no idea what the world looks like. He's from a humble village where they don't even have TV, for an example. They barely see a car
Yeah,
sometimes, right? And they're in poverty, and they have these angry militias with AK-47s and trucks that come every month or every week to just pick women to rape and promise them drugs if they fight for them. Okay, so
yeah,
imagine now this person having an access to a couple of smiling, happy white women that would get them in touch with Libyans who have trucks in order to provide them with food or supply just so they could live a better life, etc. And they would convince them to no, no, no. Now the Libyans take the part, especially the Arabs. They would like, no, how about you give us this money? We'll get you on a truck and you can see Europe.
yeah,
Want that
and
teenager
that's
to
funny.
run to Europe? He will fucking run. He will get on that truck and sell just about anything to get to Europe.
Yeah,
And they
it's funny
they
too.
die by the hundreds in the sea trying to get there every year.
Yeah, and this is
So that's one of the
this is
problems.
the African population
And
that's
we
trying to
know in
get
the
to Europe.
United Nations this exact detail. Like we've investigated it a million times. We know some of these people by name, the ones that actually do these operations. They have militias. We know where they operate. We know how many members they have. We know where they park their boats. We know where they moor their little zodiacs and stuff like that. We know everything. But what can you do? Yeah, and what can you do? Absolutely nothing because we don't have a proper official form of government, and we don't have law enforcement, and you have to keep these people fed. Every year, we do
Yeah,
a head count of how many new people got stuck in these quote unquote detention camps,
yeah,
and we have to provide them with dignity kits and food and money so they can survive. And it all ends up in the Libyan market a few weeks later with the numbers changing because people leave, try to escape, and some people go home, and some people, the United Nations manages to sort out. So, yeah. So that's
and that kind of
exactly, exactly.
leads to the black market and everything. Yeah, and I even told them about what we had in our groups. Like I talked about the immigrants and how they're being
Yeah, because
frustrated.
they don't have a concept of a functional society, unfortunately. And it's sad to say in 2024 that there are human beings who have no concept of a functional society. Like the people that blame the Somali pirates, for an example, they don't understand what it's like in Somal. They don't understand what it's like to live when there's a group of youths with no official leadership that just use a name that just call themselves Shabab, for an example. They're the same ones in Niger, the same ones in a lot of other African countries in the region, and they're all united by what? A name. They have no connection to the official movement. The word Shabab just means the youth.
Yeah,
They all have weapons that are brought to them by warlords that they're just scavenged from like all Libyan warehouses, like
and they hijack boats.
whatever exactly whatever they rob. They hold hostages so they can get money. Yeah, they would like capture French ships that are like doing scanner, like they're doing geometric scanners on the deep sea or like tankers cross
Yeah, and
the
they rob these
Mediterranean
boats.
or the edges of the Atlantic. There's just it's insane, 500 other chemicals. But yeah, you see the point. It tastes like chicken, but it's not chicken.
Yeah, we were talking about Burger King. He was surprised. Like burger joints, fast food stuff.
It is, and to the people that keep saying these are more environmentally friendly options, they clearly don't know. They clearly don't know what it's like to farm or how much destruction to the environment methane
Oh yeah, the
or
environment.
shipping. I never seen that movie either. What is that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We were talking about flat earthers, and I brought up Dark City, which was an example. Great movie. I highly recommend checking it out. Dark City.
Yeah, I see. I'm looking it up now.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, and I
I
try to
see.
explain to him about the
Yeah,
background of
I
that
see.
story.
I see the poster for the movie now. I just looked it up. I love watching these classic movies. By the way,
Yeah.
they're some of them are very, very good.
Yeah. Yeah, because Dark
No, no,
City happens
I
to
always
be.
find ways to watch
Yeah, because we were talking
like
about flat
old movies. I'll
earthers,
find them like in old
like
archives or something
pseudoscience
on the
stuff.
internet. I never fail to find all of these classic movies.
And it was a good movie, though,
Like
by the
just
way.
the other day, I introduced my wife to the Space Odyssey movie, the classic one, the old one.
Oh, yeah.
Just the other day,
And
we
this came
managed to
out
sit
in
and watch it because
1998.
my wife is 10 years older than me, younger than me. Sorry, so I feel like the old boomer that I had to show her like the old movies what they looked like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I gotta watch Strange Days. Jesus Christ.
the Space Odyssey wasn't black and white, but what was that movie? What was that movie where the guy had to wear special glasses to see the truth and everything? Or
They
like all these
live.
posters where they're like
They
aliens
live.
living among human
Yeah, that was
beings.
another movie.
They
They
live.
live.
They live. Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that's one of the good movies that, like, from a bygone era. My God, they don't make them like these anymore. Sadly, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there
No.
was a lot of, and he was interesting though. I wish him the best on his endeavors because these are things that.
Where he's like a scientist and he had to do like an experiment on himself. Hmm.
See if I can skip this. Let's see.
It's a radioactive element.
Oh, that one we gotta skip because I didn't want to. Yeah, we were talking about like science and
Why?
such. And explained to him about that whole situation with educational shows. He likes Beekman's World. Like they do show a lot of educational videos of. He grew up on Beekman's World and also other and that other guy. And I showed him Mr. Wizard.
Because yeah,
Yes,
if he's
Mr.
gonna light
Wizard.
nitrogen, yes, nitrogen lights violently, or hydrogen. Hydrogen
Yeah,
light. I remember. Now I remember. Yeah,
yeah,
he's known for wearing that red beret hat, not beret, like a red beanie. Sorry, hat.
yeah,
Yes, now I remember. There's like a statue of him and everything. He was a good guy. Now I remember. Yes, yes, yes.
yeah. And let me see, what else did we talk about?
Understand that mass is a thing and it affects shapes. So just understand that and you'll understand why everything is shaped the way it is. And
Yeah.
I gave him a good example to look into, like for
Oh yeah, he
example,
was talking debating about the situation with flat earthers because he's been dealing with a lot of pseudoscience people, and especially we were discussing about the whole issue. I asked him about those things, even though I'm not really attuned to science
well,
sometimes, but I tend to
close
listen
enough.
and
Like say
understand it
for
a little
example,
bit.
why would
His theories were
a water
interesting.
droplet would be spherical and round,
Yeah, and he's correct on the
like
whole
even in
the
rain.
spear and droplets.
Water is
And it's interesting enough he explains this that the shapes and everything.
but that more has to do with the water specifically when it's all liquids, but water very heavy element that has a high. I don't know what they think specifically sometimes because there are a lot of science deniers and they all come with their own flavors, but the majority of them are anti-establishment. Like that's their thing. They're
Yeah,
anti-establishment. Like they're against. everything that is today, and they think it's all wrong, and they think everyone is just cocky, and they think everyone is just making stuff up, and they don't want to invest the energy and time to understand how we got here. And it's
Man, it's an interesting take that he has on this
Mhm.
issue about the pseudoscience people, that they really try so
Mhm.
hard to ruin science in a way
Yep,
that
yep. I had an entire fight. Like it got big. It got really, really big, and it kind of gave me a name. It's that I was against a group of people that were calling themselves social constructivists.
yeah,
In Yeah, it's all woo. It's the same school. Trust me.
the school of
What?
thought.
Yeah, yeah. At least that's philosophy. Like if it's philosophy and it's just a practice of thought of like concept of like abstract concept, like that's fine. Okay, you pay to study philosophy so you can do that. So maybe you can find some sort of abstract idea that can be beneficial to humanity. I do too. I swear. I promise you, I do too. But at least they have the privilege to do that without hurting anybody, right? It's a thought
Yeah,
experiment. Philosophy is all about thinking
yeah,
and
and he's
rationally
correct
making things fun.
because I'm anti-philosophy. To be honest with you, I'm anti-philosopher.
Yeah,
I hate
right.
philosophers. To be honest with you, I hate philosophers
Yeah, right.
because they're
It's all
assholes.
about just
Just
rationalizing
they're
things
real
and putting them
assholes.
into abstract ideas to some sort of categorized. It's just that my problem with not these. My problem is with the social constructivists
Yeah.
that think that say for an example that would say a committee of people made a scientific discovery. Did we have a woman in our group, or did we have X number of people from X number of population of human beings? We didn't. We didn't ask for their opinion on this thing that we could demonstrate mathematically and have enough supporting evidence for, and we could prove on a paper in math, and we could like have endless mountains of supporting evidence for, and we could falsify.
Mm-hmm.
Then it's not good enough because it's done from one perspective. It needs to have all perspective. It's like science but for communism or something. It makes no
Yeah.
sense. It's like if and no, if everybody didn't give their opinion on this thing, then it's not a thing. It makes absolutely no goddamn sense.
Yeah. Let me see. What else do we have?
Yes. Yeah, yeah. This is when you ask them to support that, say for an
Evidence.
example, an X scientific data that is brought to us by some peer review, for an example, and we want to work on it and say, okay, what's your contention with this data that we have right now? And they'll say, oh, the organization that did it is white cis hetero males, and they don't know what a female perspective on it would be like, because males are all rigid and female are all liquid, and they'll say nonsense. That makes no sense. So yes, yes. What does that mean? Like, what the fuck does that mean? A men are rigid and women are liquid. Like, what does that even mean? Yeah, they, they're the ones. Yeah, they're the ones that come up with these concepts.
Yeah. They really are making
It's a,
nonsense
trust me,
arguments.
bro. I like I like.
Yep.
I heard it before, but I didn't know it's like an actual thing. I heard a friend that used to do "Trust me, bruh" like that. Like
Yeah.
I felt like he
Yeah.
was
I brought
quoting a
up the
movie or
trust me,
something, but
bro.
I didn't know
Trust me,
it's
bro.
an
I
actual
believe.
thing that people say.
Yeah. It just means that. Trust me, bro. I know
Yeah,
what
it's
I'm.
literally my experience. It's not sometimes. It's literally my experience with them. Like, let me give you an example here. When she said that men are rigid and female are liquid, what she provided me as citations. is that she explained to me through some sort of, it's not sociology,
Yeah.
but it pretends to be, from a social constructivist quote unquote science. Yeah, yes, it's from a social constructivist source that tries to sound like sociologists, which is taking an aspect of male personality, of deterministic aspects of male personality, where we're firm, we're like objectivists in ways, and we don't imply enough quote unquote feelings, as if we're not human beings capable of emotion somehow, but okay. And that women somehow have more emotional awareness, and emotions are symbolized by things that are not firm and rigid. And at, at the end, I wish at the end of all that whimsy talk, she ends up comparing how a male's member gets hard to represent his way of thinking and his way of existing, and a female's member gets soft and wet. Thus, the big conclusion: men are solid straight lines, and women are curved lines. And so, and since we're acting in math, physics, we're acting with a lot of curvatures,
Curvatures.
yeah, we can't do physics unless we have women contribute to it in their way, in that way. Even if said women have no
This led
understanding
to
of math and
sexual
physics,
innuendos
as
in
if there isn't enough
physics.
women in
That's
physics.
what
By the way,
happened.
like we don't have enough of them.
Yes.
True,
Yes.
but the ones we have are very capable. Why? No, nah. You'll hear the social constructivists construct the most ridiculous arguments, and it makes you can't argue against something that they made up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're out of your depth there.
Yeah, yeah, they bullshit the hell out of everybody in the community, including the anime community, including everybody. We've been having this problem with a lot of them, and that's what I talked
Yeah,
about with
yeah,
him,
yeah.
with
You-
within the.
I often give these people an example that actually happened in Russia. It's a real example that led to the deaths of millions of people. And it's called Lykosenkoism. Lysenko was in Russia when they were developing the communist ideas,
Yeah,
and yes, the school of thought exactly of communism, not just the economic practice, the entire school of thought, the lifestyle of a communist civilization. So, because they wanted people to be united and share everything and work together and be close and live in net society, like a close, very netted society,
yeah,
that sort of thing. Even planting crops had to go like that. Like even planting crops. If you plant crops far away from each other, they compete for resources. But if you plant them very, very close to each other, they'll learn and adapt to share resources, and it will make the crops stronger.
yeah,
And what happened? Famine. Because you can't take social ideas like that and apply them to reality and expect them to just work. Because reality is going to disagree. Plants are going to die when they don't share enough nutrient and space to grow roots, and it's gonna cause famines. And it caused famines, and it caused millions of people to die. So, a very close, very real example of trying to practice this nonsense in reality. Reality is gonna kick you back hard.
yeah,
If I want to build a machine that is going to be safe and reliable for people, I can't say I need to build it of a lot of tiny little gears, and I need to make a gear of every element because I need to be very inclusive. I have to make I have to make the least amount of compartments because that's the least amount of errors that could happen. You need to make it of sturdy material that could survive. I'm sorry if this material is exclusively the best one for this job. I'm sorry for all the other elements. They could write me a sad letter. What do you want me to tell them? Yeah, exactly. And these social constructivists, they'll come up with the insanest ideas like that.
yeah. And there's a lot of things that can happen, and it's interesting to talk to him about this stuff because he does point out some issues that
Because
he
of the
has.
population and stuff like that. Yeah, yeah. They
Yeah,
forget the entire possibility that we, as a very creative, genius species, at least to our very narcissistic sense of self, have been solving Earth's problem since we existed. And yes, we've caused some, but why do you give up on innovation right here, right now? We could be the one that saves other planets in the future by technology that we invent. We
Yeah.
we are already getting in the way of nature, preventing species.
Yeah.
Sargon of Akkad, huge fan of him. Huge fan of him. Huge fan of him. I used to watch him.
Yeah. And we talked about some other stuff that's interesting. Let me see. Which kind of was weird.
Yeah, yeah, I hear. Most a lot of people I hear are from these first world countries where she goes home and turns on the AC and the computer and she has something cooking in the microwave, but she wants to complain about the energy crisis and how it's destroying the climate. Yeah, I get it. I get it. Trust me, I get it. And she complains about Western countries that do everything they can and then some to try and prevent the carbon footprint from taking an effect on the climate. Because climate change is real. I'm a scientist. I
Yeah.
know how it works. But I wish to. I wish that too. I wish I could represent my species into like like an expedition into space. But I know it's a far fantasy. That too. And since I'm stuck on this rock, I want what's best for it. But I can't fault people living in places where what they make and the energy they burn contributes to humanity and not looking at places like India and China and Korea and Africa where they
Yeah.
built mountains of trash and then set them on fire as a solution, letting endless particles of plastic and polyethylene and carbon and other like
And,
helium gas,
and we're like talking about energy sources.
health problems, economic problems, eco-destructive problems, climate problems, you name it. You name it. That too, yeah, yeah, yep.
Yeah, we talked about a lot of
No,
stuff.
yeah, no.
Great times. Funny thing.
Economically not viable is the proper term for it. And yes, it's expensive, and not just that. I mean, the energy is not free. It comes out of somewhere else. So we're going to
Yeah.
be doing something. There's a reason why the fossil fuel-
Yeah, and we were talking about this, and it was interesting to talk about this stuff. And as
no,
far as I know, it was like an interesting take on what he said, and the fact that he talked about the
yeah.
scientific
And the
issues
solar
that were.
panels too, like at a point in my life, I almost believed in the idea that these renewables are a scam. If I didn't put the energy and effort into learning how we got to them, I would have believed it's a scam, honestly,
Yeah,
because it costs a lot to maintain, and it doesn't give back the energy required. There's a reason I was going to say why burning fuel the way we do works in biology, and it works in machines as well. Think of it this way: when you fill a
yeah,
car with fuel, not only are you getting almost 99% out of the efficiency of energy stored in the material you're
and he
burning,
is correct.
you're also making the storage of it lighter.
That's
Like
what I'm
the
saying here. He's
car is
correct.
running lighter when it has half a tank, just as efficiently when it has a full tank. That doesn't happen with a battery. The battery is heavy, and it's gonna work less efficiently when it has half a charge on the full weight of it being a full battery. Unlike the fuel that gets lighter as you burn it, the battery doesn't. And the battery's energy efficiency drops as the storage in his
Yeah,
stays. Meanwhile, you're still burning fuel the same way, regardless if you have a full tank or half a tank or a quarter of a tank. So it works the same way in biology too. Like your body metabolizes stuff the same way. You eat food, you
Yeah.
metabolize it the same way. Whether you still have half of your
And
meal
he
in
is
your
correct.
stomach or all of it, it works the same way. So yeah, there's a reason why this module works. It's just that we need to make better fuel or better engines or hybrids between the two, just to reduce, yeah, just to reduce this
Yeah,
blatant
we have to build better
discretion of this
ways.
material that is harmful.
Yeah, because I'm
And
not saying we should build better ways and safer ways to produce energy, because chances are a lot of the technology we have isn't perfect, and that's the thing that I kind of realized when he mentioned this stuff. And it's like we need to find better ways and better things that can actually work,
it's
that can be effective, that could probably influence the
yeah,
market and that all
yes.
that stuff.
To be fair, while I am not pro government, like I'm not anti government either, but I'm not like very happy with governments. I don't think anybody that is sane should be ever.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I got to empathize that it's not a government's job to do that. Well, I understand it's a government's job to serve the people and solve their problems because that's the job. Yes, because that comes with its own risks. Yeah, that comes with its own risks when you hand such power and abilities to your government. That's one thing.
Yeah.
The second is that innovation requires lots of resources, lots of access resources, and lots of, shall we say, entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
Governments don't have. It's mostly going to come from businessmen and whatnot. One second.
Yeah.
والله
Yeah.
ما عادش 10 سنين. The second is that
Let's see. Yeah, and that was all of it, but except that he continued talking about some stuff. I had to end it, and I actually had to tell him the truth about the matter of it, because and he was a great guest. I should have done it live when I should, but I couldn't. As much as I tried to get him on, um, I did hear what he had to say, and he opened up my mind on a lot of things, like the issues and problems that were happening within the UN, and what the UN was doing to immigrants, lying to them about other countries that they can go to, which tells you one thing about what was going on. Like these people who have been all their lives been used to try to immigrate these people to other countries, and not realizing that half of these people who were told that they could be promised money, safety, most people usually run there for safety because other countries, uh, their current country is a hellhole for them. But when it comes down to it, it's like there are people out there that are absolutely taken advantage of by other countries right now, and it's sad because a lot of people don't realize what these immigrants are frustrated about. And the fact is, they're being lied to by these UN groups that are trying to get these immigrants to other countries for some stupid reason. And the fact that some of them are like military age, which is kind of suspicious to me, that these people from the UN are trying to put them in other countries. And the fact that people are talking about this issue, why are these men that are military age coming to the US, which kind of tells you what's going on here. It seems like they were promised a lot of things, like some of them paying for the trips of these immigrants to come to this country. So it happens to be a UN group, and that happens to be the thing that kind of exposes the issue. I think if anyone out there that watches my content, be sure to tell If you want me to, I can be sure to lead him to you. I did follow him. I know who he is, and he showed me his credentials and everything. He's not lying, as far as I know. This is kind of the thing that I'm gonna probably tell you. If you want to contact him and interview him, I'll surely relay the message to him. Hopefully, he will get the message. As far as I know, he is welcomed on the show. After talking to him for a while, even though we were arguing, we had encountered each other in the YouTube comment section. I'm glad I actually talked to him. It was an interesting, eye-opening experience for me. Well, I got to get out of here. You guys take care. Bye-bye.